Hey guys, my name is Dave Jaranovich of the Technical Music Review. I am honored to be here with my friend David Karczewski from his own band Turning Virtue. Now, as you guys don't already know, I have been into this excursion for the first month or so I'm really new to this. And his band Turning Virtue is actually the first band that I'm going to be highlighting for my monthly Artist of the Month. So I want to congratulate him, and it's an honor to interview this guy because I've known him for a little while now, but not long enough. So there's a lot I actually want to know about him. So there's a bunch of questions I have for him, and maybe some stuff some of you already know if you know the guy and his music. But it's an honor to have him here. Nice to see you, man. It's been a while.
Dave, it's so great. I'm so glad you got to come over to MFB Studios and hang out. Dave was an early adopter of Turning Virtues, been to pretty much every show we've done. He's always been in total contact with me to try to promote the band and find out what we're doing. And I'm so glad he started this really cool website, a guy that actually puts content together by listening to the bands. And that's really cool, Dave, because so many people are just copying content from other people. Yeah. But Dave actually sits there and listens to this stuff and gets into it from all aspects, and it'll give you a great review so you know what you're getting. So if you're not into sitting around and listening to a lot of different music, you can just say, well, I'm just going to go to see what Dave said about that. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm picking this stuff up. Picking up the new Turning Virtue album. Perfect.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, man. I actually went to school for communications, but didn't get the chance to use this before I actually start up the Technical Music Review because I was running my own bands and writing my own music. I also play guitar, but not as prominently because none of my bands actually made it out, so I've struggled in that area. But this could help me move my own career further and start my career as an actual journalist or blogger, however you want to call it.
Well, wearing multiple hats like that, being involved in the industry in any sense is always going to be helpful because you're, getting together and interacting with people in that industry. So It's no different than, me with Gazing Rabbit Productions.
Yeah.
Utilizing our production arm to do videos or to do booking, any sort of promotion. It's just so much fun because, we get to work with bands like we were just talking about, like Haken and Pain of Salvation, and now we're going to be doing booking Ragnar's new tour, and that's going to be an amazing tour coming up in October of 2018, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, something I look forward to. I'm going to try to make that show you're talking about at the Evening Star during that tour. Should be something you guys should check out. It's intimate acoustic music. This is nothing you're going to see in a big arena, so it should be a pretty fun night. Two guys playing stripped down music on an acoustic. It should be one hell of a time, honestly.
Yeah, 2 solo acoustic performances. I'll be opening the show. Ragnar's got 2 new albums coming out this year, as well as us. I'm working on the solo acoustic album right now called The Tao of Davy K. It's a little bit about my philosophy of life and the openness and non-judgmental factor of living a life. Sometimes you get a little bit older and you gain some wisdom. You don't just gain age.
Yeah, that's very true, man.
I might look a little old, but it's all good because when you kind of figure out where you're going in life, it makes it a little bit easier. So with the Tao of Davy K, we're going to just delve a little deeper into the songs, but keep them kind of stripped down. We were just listening to a little bit here, and just in the first song right now, and with Spicoli Engineering again, and it's a little weird, but it's good.
Yeah, so we'll get into that later. We're going to make you guys wait because I have some boring questions until we actually get to the fun stuff, like his new solo album he's working on, so we're not going to play that just yet because, we like to be teases. So first question I got for you, Davey, is how did you come up with the band name? Did you just pull it out of a hat? Did it actually have some kind of meaning? Because some bands just, they throw out a name there. Hey, that sounds cool, but we don't really have a meaning behind it. Is there an actual meaning behind Turning Virtue? Or does it just sound cool?
Well, it does sound cool. I think it has a bit of ambiguity to it, and because of that ambiguity, it means that you can go anywhere you want. So it can mean anything to anyone. Turning Virtue actually came about when, back in, I'm going to say it was the mid-90s, and DPA, bass player, my bud, we've been together since day one with this band, grew up together on Meyer Road in good old P-Town, USA, Pendleton. So the name Turning Virtue, again, DPA had a song called Turning Virtue, and I looked at that and I was like, I just like that for a name, and he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I just think it would be a really cool name. We were looking to change the name of the band anyway at that time, and just thought it sounded cool. There was nothing else really behind it. I just sounded different. So, years later, now you move on maybe 20 years later, and as I look at the name Turning Virtue, it means so much more to me. Being a Taoist, understanding turning, the constant change, changing virtue. I mean, we see this in politics every day. We see it on the news. We see it in our families. The virtue that changes. Why is it changing? Do people just say, well, I can do what I want, I can change any time I want? That kind of idea. So that's what turning virtue is. It's because you can either hold on to your virtue and move, on a linear path towards superstardom or towards some sort of greater sense of life, or you can kind of veer off that path, and that's what turning virtue is.
That's cool. I had my own different interpretations of the band name, but I had some of the similar concepts, like it's just rotating life, which you just really expanded on. There's a lot of meanings. Like we talked about before we started this video, man, you can interpret art, no matter what kind of art it is, in many different ways. You had a similar concept and I had one, but you know the origin of the band name. So it's really about how you just look at the art and what your idea and interpretation of it is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's really nice. Even though I gave you a basic overall definition of what turning virtue is or what it might mean to me, it can mean anything to anyone, wherever you're at in your life, the different movement of life and how your life evolves or changes. And that's all right, man, because it's no different than when we look at turning virtue, when we create an album or a song even. It might change multiple times within the song or within the album, and those different feels are all that turning and that changing. And that's the way we try to approach it. And that's why we call it progressive. It's for lack of a better term sometimes.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's quite the answer for that question. And it's definitely not generic, and that's what I love about it, man. It's experimental. You can interpret your art many different ways. It's really cool stuff. So the second question I got for you, Dave, is you already touched on it with the opening question about the name of your band, is how did your band start with? How did you meet the members of your band? And I remember there were couple different incarnations of this band. What was the origin of Turning Virtue, and not just the meaning behind the name like I asked in the first question, but how did it come to be? How did you choose the certain guys in your lineup you have right now? What made Turning Virtue? How did it come about?
Okay, let's try to be Turning Virtue. We had the name Interphase back in the early 90s, I'd say. I mean, we've been together since we were kids. DPA said we were listening to some Maiden and some Priest and Scorps and Def Leppard, and we were down shooting some pool in my buddy's basement, buddy Swen, and he was like, dude, you gotta play guitar. And I was like, really? I said, I don't know how to play any instrument. I don't even know if I can, man. He was like, dude, you gotta play guitar, man. We gotta start a band. And I'm like, okay, cool, man. So I went and I ran across the street to my dad, and I'm 16, and he was like, okay. I was like, really? We can go get a guitar now? And he was like, yeah. I was like, that's freaking cool, man. I thought that was really wicked cool. So my dad ended up giving me a guitar. So long story short, man, me and DPA were together since day one, and that's kind of what I was getting at. And if it wasn't for DPA encouraging me to play at that point, and my dad being so cool to say, hey man, let's get in the truck and let's go grab that guitar right now.
That's cool.
Probably wouldn't be doing it. So, but Turning Virtue started just like all other bands do. You start out and you play what you can play, right? And then as you start progressing, we just thought, let's be more of a different kind of band and a progressive kind of band. Yeah. And that's when really Turning Virtue really came into its own. That was like in the mid-90s. And we played some pretty good shows, released an album back in 96 called The Anomaly Room, which is kind of like it was a little raw. It was a little raw. There's nothing wrong with the album. It was raw though. It wasn't as polished as it is today, of course. And the guys in the band back then were Lou Lamont, who played drums, and Kevin Stefanski was our guitar player. And Kevin has passed away. He died of stomach cancer about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, he was a phenomenal player here in Western New York, and miss him because he was always my bud, man.
We're touching on the point you really need those people that push you and motivate you, because we all have our bad days as artists. We get depressed, we get happy, we get sad, and we need that constant, whether it's a partner, a friend, someone that's got to push you to do your best. And as a father figure, a friend, you need someone that's got to do that for you, because we're going to have our lows and highs, and we need someone to kick us in the butt and get us motivated, because they can turn to something great like your band is.
Oh, thanks, Dave. And It's you know, you tend to wear a lot of hats when you're in a band. You know, you got to do a lot of different things, and you need members in the band that can really, you know, bring you to that higher level. And if you only have one guy working or guys working against each other, it doesn't work very well. And like with DPA, you know, sometimes you know, he motivates me just by giving me a set of lyrics. And if I get those lyrics and I read them and I go, oh man, that is just unbelievable. I got to get to work on writing that song at that point, you know. So that's really cool. But so to take it just one step further, you know, when we decided to put this band back together a handful of years ago now, it was about finding guys that were like-minded, guys that could play the music, cared about the music, and wanted to do it at a high level. And so me and DPA have been together since day one, and we were always going to be together. But then when we added Carl Sino into the band, guitar player, and his, you know, his contribution is just fantastic on this album. I know you really dig it.
Yeah, he makes me want to put down a guitar, man. That guy can bring me to pieces, which is a perfect segue to a question I'm answering out of order from my game plan. I want to know, for every single one of your current bandmates in Turning Virtue, Davey, what is your favorite thing about every single one of them? And, you know, we're just talking about that. We were talking about how they push you to make you a better person and a better artist. What are your favorite things about every single one of your band members? Because it's a cohesive unit, like we talked about.
It is. It's a cohesive unit, but we're all so diverse, right? Because you bring this group of guys together, and now you got to become a family. And like any family, man, you all kind of look at the world a little bit differently, right? So I mean, if I start from, you know, DPA, what do I love about DPA? I love his he's my bud, man. So it's hard to even say anything more than that. Like, we've been together for so long that we just love each other like brothers, right?
Yeah.
So that's enough with DPA. And then I take Spicoli, and Spicoli is our third guitar player, but he's also been my right-hand man. Without him, he's our do-everything. He engineered this whole last CD project. He's here every night with me when I'm recording. You know, he's always there for me. It doesn't matter if it's something like that, playing, or technical, Spicoli's always there. So with Spicoli, I just look at him and I say, again, I would say that he's just like an attached, just like DPA in a sense, that because I've known him since I was a little kid, there's this deeper love and attachment there. It goes past musicianship, and then now we'll take the newest members in the band, Carl and Rob Thurman. Carl the guy is just music, man. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have other things, but man, is he into the music, right? I mean, cares so much about every note being right. It's not about playing 1,000 notes, it's about just playing those right notes. And whenever I give him something and he adds his beauty to it, it's always perfect, man. And we added Rob after we released the album because we had Mark Zonder play on the album.
He's awesome, man. He's a freaking legend.
Yes.
And he's your boy. You love his work.
You know what? He's been my favorite drummer since actually, legitimately, when I took Perfect Symmetry and I dropped it in the CD player and I heard those opening strains of that album, I was like, who is this guy and why hadn't I heard of him previously? And ever since that day, I think it was 1989, I'm guessing, somewhere around there.
Wow, I was 2 years old. Holy crap, shows my young age.
You were very young, Dave. 2 years old. 2 years old, and I'm listening to Zonder cranking some of the best progressive beats ever, man. It was a pretty intense thing, and I've been a follower and a lover of Zonder ever since. When the opportunity came to find a drummer for this, it was just a dream of mine to say, hey, would Mark do this? And when I contacted him, and he said he would, and he said he liked the songs,
wow,
and it fit him really well. It was fantastic.
That had to be mind-blowing for your idol of, you know, probably your favorite drummer of all time. Saying that, you probably lost your shit when you heard that. You're like, my favorite drummer just said that about me. He's going to play on my band's album. I mean, that had to blow your mind.
Yeah, you do. And, you know, I mean, there is the community's obviously bigger now. You can access people who would never given you the time of day before. And I don't mean that Mark wouldn't. Mark's just a really down-to-earth guy. But it's so nice to have that access through the internet nowadays. To be able to coalesce with like-minded musicians and guys who are just so at the top of their game. I mean, the guy is so good. I mean, I know, I'm a fanboy. Yeah, it's all right to be that. You have to be. You love these guys. You grew up listening to them. You know why they're so good because they put the time and dedication into being that good. But just to take it, just think about this. So I remember that stool right over there that's sitting off to the side there. Rob Thurman, when he came in the first time, our drummer, he came in there and he sat on that stool right there, and he had a smile on his face, and he said he listened to the album and he really liked it a lot, and we were happy to bring him on board because of his, he has such a cool attitude. He's been around the scene for a long time here in Buffalo, plays all the time. He's a professional musician. And he's a bud too. He's the kind of guy who wants to put his arm around you and say, "Hey, let's do something cool tonight." That's Rob Thurman.
Yeah, that stool's a piece of history, man. That was an important part of your band's history. Yeah, so this is leading to a good segue for the next question that we talked about in the first question a little bit. What are the meanings and symbols behind your album, A Temporary Human Experience? And if you want to go through it song by song, but it can be taken many different ways, and I have some of my own interpretations of it. It's pretty interesting album. There's a lot of different things you can take out of it. What are the meanings behind it all?
The meanings, it's really hard to drill down hard on the meanings because all the songs, obviously, it's what we consider, when we were writing a diverse album, meaning that we allowed each song to sit on its own. I wrote each song in the moment, and wherever it was in that moment, I left it there. I didn't want to say, oh, it needs to sound like this or it needs to move here. No, you know what it was? It was the feeling I got in that moment. I tried to, even if it took me a little longer to finish it, it didn't matter. I still tried to always keep that sense of momentary idea that you were in and to keep it present right there. So for me, each song is totally unique unto itself. The tying together that when I came up with the title for A Temporary Human Experience, it kind of just tied it all together because you sometimes sit around a long time, you do something, and you ask yourself that idea. Am I a human having a spiritual experience, or am I really just spirit having this temporary human experience?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I tried to dive into the thing, man, but I wanted to answer from the curator himself because it's pretty vague, but it's also pretty interesting because what do you mean by a temporary human experience? It could be spiritual, it could be religious, it could be a billion different things. It's a cool idea. That's why I like it.
It's a Carl Jung thing, you guys can go, we're not going to delve into that. That'll be for a totally another interview where we head into the total Taoist sense and do some real psychotherapy behind Davy K's brain. Really dig inside it, but that idea of a temporary, just think to yourself once in a while, just stop and just allow it to be. And just say, am I here? And if I am, why am I here? And just start asking yourself the simple questions. And that's kind of what I was doing with that album. I just felt like it's the spirit that carries it.
Yeah, that's some really deep stuff. And it's cool when you have music, it's just not out there for the heck of it. You need music with actual meaning behind it, not just musically, the melody, the technicality, the meaning or the song or song titles that coincide with the whole album or the lyrics of the song, but it has to have some kind of meaning to actually really enhance what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and if we want to, let me just cue this up to create some more light on the scene. If you want to get into any of the songs in particular, sure, we can get into that and I can give you a little bit of insight. But of course, what I think isn't always important either, right? It's kind of what you can get out of the song. And what's always interesting, all artists will pretty much tell you that the interesting thing is that what you were thinking, as long as you're not spelling it out in ABC kind of language,
that's pretty boring.
Yeah, you have some ambiguity to the ideas and some paradoxical ideas woven in there, Taoist paradoxical ideas, that people are going to interpret them to their own lives. Because isn't that what music's about? Like every time you hear a great song, the singer-songwriters of the 70s, okay, I grew up on that. That just goes to show my age a little bit, but I grew up on a lot of that stuff. and some of those songs just touched you so personally, even when you were 10 years old. Well, why did it when you're 10 years old and the guy that wrote it was 30, right?
Yeah.
But it still touched you because it's a universal theme that you can adapt to the way you're feeling in any given moment.
It definitely is, man. We already talked about this part of this question for the most part, if you want to expand on it. Why did your friends and musicians you have in your band, what led you to choose them specifically to be in your band? You have a pretty good chemistry going from what we've talked about in the past. But they all have different roles in the band, just like you do. So what actually made you choose these guys and made you think they're the actual members of Turning Virtue and just not fill-ins compared to your first reincarnation of the band in the 90s? Because you need guys like we talked about before we shot this that need to stay in the band, show up. You need guys that are dedicated to being artists and not just, oh, we're going to show up whenever we want to. What made you choose these guys specifically to be in your band for the long run?
You know, when we first started it and we got back to writing music, I had always been writing, even when I took some time away. DPA and I actually took 6 years away from each other. We took a hiatus. I figured we'd get back, but we were so tired from playing year after year after year and banging away at the original music idea. We weren't cover band guys. That's not what we do, man. We create original music, always have. So when DPA and I got back together, I told him, I said, man, I'm a little different than I was 6 years ago. I'm writing a lot of different kinds of songs. I think I have a different raison d'etre, if you will, a reason for being, a reason for living. My ideas are different. They're not what they were. So him and I, when we got back together that first time, we talked for hours. And then he came back, and we talked for hours. We didn't do any music, really. I'd pick up my acoustic, play a little bit, we'd bounce some things around, but we weren't about writing the album really at that point. We were just about finding each other again and saying, hey man, what can we do this time that's a little different than the last time we were together? And it was pretty amazing. So again, that's why did I choose DPA or DPA choose me? Well, that goes without saying. Everything that I've laid out, spelled out, is always why him and I have remained tight and together. But the rest of the guys, thinking it was a project to begin with, we were just thinking about, hey, let's get this album done. We didn't even know if we were going to keep it going and play. But then once the album came out and we really were happy with the way it was a no-brainer to get out and start performing it live. So Carl, I'd known Carl for all these years, and when I asked him to play on the record, I knew he would do a phenomenal job. So when you got a guy like that who cares so much about the music, it's so easy to have him on stage with you because you look over and you know he's always going to be doing his job and he's into it. And then obviously, again, we go back to Rob and say, well, we needed a drummer who can actually sit down and play the Zonder stuff and play it note for note. We asked him to duplicate it exactly, which is fantastic. You know how hard that is? A lot of guys won't even want to do it. You know, first of all, they might be intimidated by the idea that Zonder wrote these parts, or they might just say like, hey, I got to put my own spin on it. And Rob wasn't like that. I'm not saying that Rob wouldn't want to put his own spin on it necessarily, but he was open to the idea of saying, hey man, these tunes work this way. Why would I want to change something that works so perfectly?
It's like out of respect for him, you know, you had such a heck of a drummer that originally recorded those parts. You might want to put your own take on it, but in the end, he's such a great drummer. You want to keep it that way because, you know, guys come into bands that with pre-recorded parts like Rob did from Zonder. He created those parts, kind of like what happened with Dream Theater with Portnoy and Mike Mangini. Those parts are already written and recorded a certain way they were, so you want to come in and play those parts the same they were, and if you want to change them around a little bit live, you can, but for the most part, you want to stick to that method because they were written a certain way to flow with the music in a certain way.
I totally agree because that's what makes the songs, right?
Yeah.
You start messing about too much, and what do you have then? You have it basically becomes a poor cover sometimes.
Yeah, pretty much. So what do you think, my friend? Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops?
I would say Lucky Charms.
Hell yeah, man. I love them both. It's sugar, so what's the difference in the end, man?
Sugar cereals. Are you kidding me? So I'm going to step one back then. If we're going Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops, you got to give me one more option because I'm an Apple Jacks guy.
Apple Jacks? That wasn't even in the question. Stop giving yourself choices.
Apple Jacks. I loved Apple Jacks when I was a kid.
Alrighty. I have another question for you, Sir Davey K. It's very generic and every artist probably hates, but it's got to be asked in every single interview. What advice do you have for any aspiring artist, whether it's a drawer, a painter, a musician, a vocalist, any artist, even someone involved with photography or, cinema, anyone dealing with movies, or what advice do you have for them since you've also been around for quite a while and you've had a lot of artistic experiences and written a lot of music? What advice do you have for even bums like me? What advice do you
You're
have for all of
definitely
us?
not a bum.
I am a bum.
No, you're not.
I've had these
look
clothes
at
on
you.
for- Yeah,
You said,
I've had
look at
clothes
me.
for-
Look at you. I'm looking at you. Why?
Yeah, because I've had these clothes on for 2 weeks, man. I mean,
2
come on.
weeks. We've been doing this interview for the last week. I've changed clothes like 5 times already, and Dave's still wearing the same thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, no wonder I smell like shit. I'm shocked you want to be this close to me.
Oh my gosh,
So
I don't know where this is going, but so the question was.
What advice do you have for any
advice.
aspiring artists when we got distracted by me?
Here's my deep thought Davey K advice on this one.
Oh boy. Prepare yourselves.
Dream big. And then move your feet. So make sure you do the action phase. You dream. I love dreaming. I dream every day about new things I can do. I think we all do, right? And then some people only just keep it in the dream part and they never push it farther. It's something they love to do. It's a hobby, but they want to make it a profession. Or even if it is just a hobby, it's all right, man. But be the best at what you can do. And the only way you can do that is to get it out there, right? Take your stuff and push it out there. Let the critics hear it. That's all right, man. You're doing this. You're going to keep getting better and better. But it's that idea, like I think it's an old Quaker saying when they say, when you pray, move your feet. I mean, so you can pray all day long, but if you're not doing anything, you're praying and sitting on the couch, you're not working at your craft, how good can you get?
True.
So whatever you believe in, whatever spirit you believe in, is it Tao, is it God, is it any other name of God that we have, pray, dream, and then do. That's it.
That was really big, man. Yeah, that's definitely something I've struggled with too. I have my own instrumental band I'm going to plug in called the Binomial Complex. And we've been through some rough times. One of my best friends moved to Ohio. He's an amazing drummer. Like I told you about Tommy, he's one of my good friends. And we're like the butter to my toast. We can improvise a section of a song out of nowhere and it would look like we actually rehearsed it.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies, Holly, just left the band and we're pretty dysfunctional right now, but we actually have an album written. But I'm getting out of this depressed stage that us artists get into some of these times. And it's something I'm trying to lull myself out of. But we're going to record this album when he's settled in back in Ohio and get this thing done. But we have that connection which you can relate to where you can improvise with someone and out of nowhere come up with a song or just jam something to warm yourself up. And it's like something you've already known and had the song written for years when it's something you came up with on the spot.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. You got to keep your hopes up, and you got to keep working at it because we've all been through many, many incarnations of bands over the years, and if you love playing, you're gonna keep playing, right? I mean, like you start this when you're a kid, and then all of a sudden you look around the corner and you're kind of old.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at myself in the mirror and I go, man, dude, you're getting old, or maybe you are old. I don't know. But the point is this: I don't feel that way.
That's
I totally
true,
don't
man.
feel that way at all.
You're only as old as you feel, man. It doesn't matter. You're in good shape for your age, and you wouldn't even be able to tell. You act like you're a lot younger.
Oh, Jesus, Dave.
You have the
Thank
passion.
You, man. Thank
yeah,
you.
and I'm the guy that feels like you should be older because I'm kind of chunky. I'm the fat ass here, man. This guy's in better shape than me, and he's almost double my age.
It's the soccer. It's the
Yeah,
soccer
it's the
playing.
soccer.
That's why I went and I
Okay.
put this splendid Manchester
God, there you
United
go.
jersey on.
Hey, I told you a
And-
couple hours ago.
And it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Okay. I told you a couple hours ago, man. I played soccer for a few years when I was 5 years old, but the only reason I stuck around for that other year is because there was ice cream at the end of the game, so I was motivated. By the wrong reasons for playing soccer, but I was still motivated.
It was ice cream, and then when you realized that they were giving you orange slices, he didn't like the fruit, so he quit.
No, actually, I love the orange creamsicles.
He
That's
did.
a lie.
Oh no, orange slices,
Oh,
not
orange
creamsicles.
Oh,
Splitting hairs. That's all
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, next question I got for you is you touched on your promotion company, Gazing Rabbit Productions, which I got to say you've put on some amazing shows. And
Thank you, Dave.
As much as I love it, I blame you for all the albums and money I've spent, but it is some damn fine music, and the shows you put on are the greatest.
Oh, thank
So
you.
what motivated you to start this whole thing? Because you've led me to so much unique music that isn't like anything out there, and you really search for these artists. What made you want to start this up outside of being an artist and running your own band? That's a lot to do. This is something you can't get, 10 hours of sleep over and do. This takes a lot of hard work. What made you start that up?
I think it's kind of like what we talked about previously, the idea that if you're going to, you want to be around it as much as you can. You want to, if you're going to be in the music industry, be it as an artist or a producer or an engineer or a production guy or a promotion guy, right? A booking agent, a promoter. Just being around it is cool, right? You get to meet awesome people. You get to put your band on the bills a lot of the time, which never sucks, right?
I mean, what guys have you played with? Haken, Pain of Salvation,
Oh
Thank You
God.
Scientist. Those guys are weird, but they rip.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about all the cool bands you guys have played with. I mean, that's jealousy right there. These aren't guys you can just turn on satellite radio or look up on the internet like that. This is some truly unique stuff you've brought to a place, Buffalo, New York, out of nowhere. These guys have been amazing you brought over.
The thing that's tough about bringing some of these bands is that a lot of time they don't hit these second-tier cities. I mean, Buffalo's not second-tier in any sense. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that it's a second-tier on its population, and therefore, they skip over and they go to the big cities a lot of times. So when we can get them here, it's incumbent upon us, guys like me and you, to make sure we spread the word, because we don't want to have them playing in front of 20 people. So we do pretty well. I mean, we did, that Haken show was blown up pretty good, man. There's a lot of people at that show.
When you think about that, we're not a second-rate city, like you said, but think about it. New York is big. Honestly, as much as I love New York City, they should be their own state. But think about it. You have Manhattan, the Bronx, and think about the venues, Times Square. You got Radio City Music Hall or whatever. I think it's like the PlayStation Theater now.
That could be,
I'm pretty sure. And then you've got places in Long Island and all the big outdoor places. You got that what is it, the Beach Theater in Long Island or something, the Jones Theater or whatever.
I know so few venues over
Something
there, to be
like
honest
that.
with you.
But then you got, you got Albany, you got Syracuse, and then there's Buffalo. So you have all these bigger name cities throughout New York State, and we're not as high up because you got all the places in New York City and the venues. And CBGBs, they were on for a long time, man. But then Buffalo, you don't think of them as a higher up city based on popularity. You got Albany, Syracuse, you even got Rochester. To an extent, it doesn't look as attractive. Like, we're going to New York City. No, we're going to Buffalo, man. We're on the other side of the state.
Yes, okay, for that, most people aren't that great with geography. That we are on the western side of New York State. A lot of times you tell people you live in New York, they think you live in New York City.
True,
of course.
that's what I'm getting
and
at.
we live in Buffalo, sure. But, any city can cultivate their own image, and that's even musically, right? I mean, it's what you want to do. I mean, certain bands perform extremely well here and come back time after time after time. It's because maybe that's what the general music population is looking for. Now, obviously, we don't look for a lot of that stuff because we're always looking for stuff that's a little more edgy or avant-garde and stuff like that, and progressive. Use again the progressive term. So it's cool. But a lot of the people that I've turned on to some of these bands by bringing them here are just so happy because they didn't even know some of these bands. When you started turning people on and saying, hey man, you want to check these guys out. They're going to be really cool. It's a show you don't want to miss. One day you'll want to tell your friends, listen, I was at that Haken show. I was at that Pain of Salvation show. I was at that Leprous show.
Yep, I was there, man.
So.
All right, so finally, we talked about so many times off camera, and I've heard some of it, but just to let the two people watching this interview probably, where are you at with that acoustic album you've been hyping up, man? I'm excited to hear it.
Well, I just started hyping that, Dave. You've heard a little bit about it because, we know each other. Just started the work on it. The Dow, Davey K, working on some artwork with my buddy MJ Myers, who did the artwork on Temporary Human Experience. Always some weird stuff coming out of MJ. Quite the artist. Make sure you check him out. Look him up online. He's fantastic. Follow him on Instagram. So with this album, it's probably going to be 6-7 songs. Probably more like an EP, and just doing it all myself. Just really kind of keeping it simple, but intense in its own way. I think you can create enough intensity. You don't have to get crazy with the instrumentation, and I'm trying to back off a little bit and kind of just keep that acoustic vibe going.
That's cool. Yeah, we teased about it at the beginning of this segment a little while ago, but we've had this screen up here for a while and we haven't really used it, but I don't know, man. It looks like there's something on there. What the hell is that? It looks colorful and cool.
Okay, this is a totally unmixed track.
It's raw.
It's raw as raw can be. There's no effects on it, no EQ, no nothing. Just some raw tracks of this, the first song. It's called, well, it's a working title. We don't know if it's going to be the exact title, but it's called 4 Fluster 96 right now. Love that. So we'll play a little bit for you. Or
Technological
now.
error.
Oh, God, I love that. You must choose.
Cloaked in this emotional cloud, so self-enclosed, planet where the tulips grow, soaked in this promotional sail, so self-exposed, planet where the roses grow. One last supper for us to dine, one last supper for us intertwined, for us to bind.
There you go, Dave. A little snippet for you.
Yeah, I think I heard that a few times, man. But I think that's why, we can keep a good friendship, because we both don't like happy, cheesy music generally. We kind of like that melancholy vibe, and when you played that clip for me a week or two ago, man, it really drew me, because just like that band I'm wearing, Opeth, they do a great job of portraying really depressing stuff in a beautiful way, and I think this section of your one song does the same exact thing, where you have a really happy, upbeat verse, then you get to that depressing pre-chorus, if you want to call it that right now, because it's not really done. And it just totally changes the mood, but I love that beautiful, haunting melody a lot of these artists can do, like Opeth and even the mighty Steven Wilson, and then a dude like you out of Western New York. That's what makes these depressing, melancholy songs haunting and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, those artists you mentioned, absolutely fabulous. I thank you for the wonderful compliment, because obviously, as I sit here, some of my favorite guys that I look up to. I mean, I don't have it right here now, but there was a music stand that sat right there, and Steven Wilson's picture on it. And he watched me. He actually watched me
Creepy.
write the whole album. How weird is that? Is that
Creepy.
weird? It's not really weird. You know why? Because every time I would sit here and I'm writing a temporary human experience, I would look over, and if I didn't think it was quite good enough, I'd look over and he could be like, you can do better.
Yeah. So he gave you that temporary human experience while he was looking at you through the picture.
Um,
Ghostbuster style.
You know what? It's so cool. Whatever inspires you. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier. Find things that inspire you. If that's what it takes to motivate you and push you harder, then you just go for it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's whenever you're done with this, man, I'm gonna be excited to hear this stuff. Maybe I'll just have to take off of work and come with you on this tour to hear your originals.
Yeah, what's gonna be great is I'm gonna be playing this whole album on the tour, as well as I'm gonna be reworking some of the Turning Virtue stuff off of Temporary Human Experience into neat acoustic form.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time, man. I wish I could head to every show, but we're adults and have our own day jobs, and
Well,
it would be a fun time, man.
I have
It'd
a
be
day,
a great
I
show
have a
to
day
see.
job too, so
Yeah, we all do.
just take a little time away from that day job, and me and Ragnar and Mike's gonna go on the road with us to document the whole tour, which is fantastic. It's gonna be nice to you guys. We're gonna keep a nice diary of what's going on, and we'll be posting it on the internet for everyone to see. And there's no one better right now in my mind writing songs melodically than Ragnar. So. It's gonna be a wicked cool tour, and it's gonna be a personal tour too. That's what's really nice about it, because we have very little production, we'll have so much time to be able to spend with the fans, and Ragnar will be able to talk to everyone and spend time with them, as well as I will too.
Yeah, that's cool stuff, man. Next question I got for you is, if you're familiar with the mighty Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, he actually released solo music after Lane Staley passed away, and he wrote a double album. And I love it too. It's got a lot of blues on it, but then it's got a lot of stuff that reminds you of Alice in Chains.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great record. It's called Degradation Trip. It came out like 15 years ago, but it's got a lot of Alice influences in it if you're into that music. But the point leading this question, you're going to have the same issue. How tough it is to separate Turning Virtue from your new acoustic project you're starting right now, because just like Jerry Cantrell did a side project after he passed away to keep his art flowing,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to differentiate the two projects? Because that's always the artistic question. You go and try something else, but because you've been writing the same way for such a while, it'll sound like your main band that you're working with. You know, it's probably going to be a challenge when you're writing this music.
I think so too. Honestly, that's a great question, because I think the same thing. How am I going to differentiate? I think by not having, especially I would say Carl playing on this, purposefully not having him play on it, will change it a little bit, because he's very influential to what we do. Also, it makes my approach has to be a little different. I have to kind of look at it a bit differently and say, do I want to add different styles of instrumentation that I might not use on a Turning Virtue album? I'm not saying that I wouldn't use everything on a Turning Virtue album. I will. I'm open to everything. But I think by keeping this a little simpler, I think that's where it's gonna lie in the difference. I mean, is it gonna sound kind of like it? Of course. I mean, if I'm singing it, it's probably gonna sound a lot like that. But hey, man, it gives people more music. That's all that really matters. I mean, in the long run, whether it's Davy K, the Tao of Davy K, Turning Virtue, it's more good music.
Touche.
And that's it.
That's all that matters. So you were touching on it just recently, but I'm going to ask that question anyways. Who are your biggest influences on guitar and musicians in general? Because we grew up, like we were talking about before we shot this, our tastes change throughout our lives, so we go through many different phases. So we like one thing at another point in our life, even before we became an artist, if we're an artist. Then you grow up and you find something cooler, something different, then you're attracted to that. So even throughout your lifetime, what your influence as a kid, when you grew up, and what you're listening to now, and who your influences are as a guitar player and as a musician overall. So go ahead and blabber on about that.
You have got to be kidding me. I mean, I'm 52 years old now.
You're 21.
Okay, I'm 21. If I was 21, when I was 21, what was big in my life then? So let's take it from a certain point there. How about I grew up listening to singer-songwriter stuff, a lot of folky stuff in a sense, but also a lot of progressive stuff. My dad and my sister were heavily into progressive music, so therefore what was really great is my sister Connie's buying albums, my dad's buying albums, I'm listening to those albums, right? Yeah. So I'm talking like Genesis, yes, Rush was huge, right? Man. Because I mean, we're in Buffalo, New York. Rush, man. I mean,
why not?
They were absolutely one of my faves. Also, my dad listened to tons of Pink Floyd and Jethro Tull, so that was always on. And so that was like in the 70s, and radio was kind of cool back then too. After it changed from the AM to the FM format, because Dad we'd like actually clean our house and stuff all together as a family, like on Saturdays. And Dad would put WPHD on, and it would always have all the progressive music. And back then, they weren't limited to playing just the hits. They would play really, really deep cuts.
Yeah, that's
what
we need.
They played anything off the album.
That's what we need.
So you were hearing amazing music all the time. So, it was that kind of music was always in my life. It was the progressive stuff, some of the folkier stuff. I liked, Jackson Browne and Warren Zevon and stuff like that. That stuff was really it just blended in, because it took it in a different way, because those guys are writing really cool, interesting melodies and lyrics. The lyrics of those bands are cool. Also, I was listening to stuff like Frank Zappa also.
Oh yeah, amazing. His son's a great player too, Dweezil.
Yeah.
I saw him over last summer, and the drama that's going on with that family, his siblings are ratting him out because he's trying to make money, but he's trying to keep his dad's legacy alive. Yeah. And that was one of the coolest shows I've been to, and that guy is an amazing player.
He is.
Real good player. Fantastic. So he's doing his dad some real good justice. If you get a chance to check out Dweezil Zappa shows, do it. Get off your ass and go check out a Dweezil show, because that guy's doing his father's music a real good justice, and it's very fun. I haven't even heard every Frank Zappa song because the guy has like hundreds of albums.
Dude, there's
This
so
guy's
much.
rivaling Buck with that Buckethead guy.
There's a lot of stuff.
I mean,
There's
he's got a
stuff.
lot of music, and I only have heard, I don't know, a couple hundred songs out of a lot more he's probably made.
Absolutely. You know, after that, it was the biggest influence was metal. Then metal just took over my life after that. you
Heavy
know.
fucking metal.
Dude, back then, you know, it was definitely like Scorpions and Priest and Maiden.
Priest, Maiden.
Those were the bands right then. I liked a band from New York City, Riot. They were fantastic. I use that word a lot today. Sorry, but yeah, it was all metal. It was metal from I would say the whole '80s was total metal. And then, you know, obviously things changed in the '90s again. I mean, I still followed metal, but metal
Alice in
started.
Chains.
Metal started. Yeah, and I was an AIC fan, you know. So that's. But I also liked some other bands too. I mean, you like a lot of different progressive stuff that's coming about. Obviously, like Queensryche and Fates Warning and stuff.
Yeah.
Those were bands that still continued. I still enjoyed them well into the '90s, you know, and I still like them today, you know. Influences. I don't know, man. Too many, right?
Yeah, that's what interviews is for. Go ahead and rattle them off, dude. That's the whole point. Have fun.
Oh my God, I would say guitar-wise, one of my earliest guitar influences was definitely Gary Moore.
Good choice.
He was that guy, man. It was just like he got so much out of a note that it was so inspirational to me. And then I was lucky enough when I was in the Navy back in '86 to see him at the Hammersmith Odeon.
I wasn't even born.
He was doing his Run for Cover tour, and it was, wow, what a fabulous show that was. I was really lucky to see that show. And other influences, I mean, I love the dual guitar attack kind of stuff of the '80s, especially like Queensryche was, you know.
Oh, yeah.
DeGarmo and Wilton were probably my faves of the time.
Oh, yeah.
But Matheos and Aresti from Fates Warning again, huge.
Melody's big, man. That's why I love dual parts, and I've written some of my own music. It's beautiful as long as you don't overdo them.
Yeah.
Real good.
No, and so I mean, you know, you take the metal stuff, and then, you know, singing wise, yeah, who knows? It's all over the place when it comes to singing. But honestly, if I would say one guy that I've loved more than just about anyone over the years is actually a Canadian artist. His name is David Usher, and he plays in a band called Moist, and a lot of solo albums too. And people wouldn't expect me to say that, so.
The only thing you said Usher, and I'm thinking about that rap artist. I don't even know who this guy is.
No, man.
Is
David
he in
Usher.
a rock band? Who is
This
this
is a
guy?
rock. He's a rock artist, man.
Okay, cool.
Canadian rock artist. Yeah. So check out Moist. They're really cool. They were in the alternative vein, you know.
Oh, sorry, dude. That's just a really weird band name. I gotta say that right now.
Moist. Well, of
As our
course it
camera guy was just laughing like Moist. That's just a weird.
I'm gonna say
that's
that a
weird
couple
band
more
name.
times, Mike. This is going in a different direction again.
It
Here
is.
we go. But Moist. Moist is a great name.
I can't right now.
You know, so
Oh
I
my
guess
God.
we're gonna get them extra publicity
Bloopers.
this way, right? No,
Alright.
David Usher was a great singer, and you know,
I'm gonna have to check it out.
and who couldn't be influenced by Jeff Tate also, you know.
Yeah.
I was a huge Tate fan. Not so much now. The guy's kind of lost his way a bit. Yeah, I'm being very kind when I tell you he's lost his way a little bit, so I don't want to get, you know, I don't like that kind of stuff to, you know, put people down too much. But he's lost his way melodically and personally also. You know.
Yeah. So you guys played that show with them acoustically, and I didn't make it out to that show, but seeing those press pictures, like, this guy's trying to be Irish now? Like, what the hell was up with that get up? Like, he was trying to, like, be a folk artist. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Dave's working with this guy? He's opening for this guy? He's
Yeah.
trying to be an Irishman. What the hell?
You know, we had a great performance that night, but it wasn't one of my favorite shows. I mean,
Yeah.
his rapport.
I only watched it for you guys when you streamed it.
You know, listen, man. The guy never even thanked me for putting that show on.
Wow, that's
He
that's
never
rough.
even thanked me.
Wow.
He never thanked the venue. Tried to take advantage of us every
Wow,
way he
that
could.
ain't good.
So it is what it is. I mean, I'm telling you the truth because it's the truth. You know, it's fact. There's no innuendo, no payback kind of stuff here. It's
Wow.
absolutely the straight up truth. I put that show on, and I was happy to put it on. One of my all-time favorite artists, and the guy never even shook my hand
Yeah.
and thanked me. Never said
Wow,
one.
that's-
Not said, "Hey man, thanks for the nice payday. Thanks for letting me play in this great venue." Maybe he's just done it so many times he doesn't care anymore. That's what happens, right? People get jaded
Yeah.
in their lack of appreciation. They start to take things for granted. Don't take things for granted.
Yeah, that's where it gets to the point. We all know it, even no matter how long you've lived. There's a saying that's been going around. It's actually kind of twofold now. You don't always want to meet your artists or the people that influenced you in some sort of way because, you might be disappointed. Perfect example right here, what my generation likes to call a douche canoe. You were influenced by his music, but he didn't even thank you. He didn't thank the venue. He didn't have any gratitude. He wasn't thankful for an opportunity again. But yeah, it sounds like this guy was total douche canoe, and he loved his music. He said, that's not cool. You got to be humble.
You're right, and it does make you now, when it comes on the radio, you tend to want to just turn it off.
Yeah.
Because you remember you have that bad taste in your mouth. All right. What else we got there? Did I give you enough, or you want more?
Yeah.
You want more influences? I don't have any more influences.
But
Everyone
I do have
influences
something
me.
else that's core though. Grilled cheese or a tuna melt? What the hell you got? One or the other. No
Grilled-
option C.
Grilled cheese.
Me too, man. I don't really go with tuna. I have weird cravings. My fiance actually randomly dives into tuna every now and then, and there was just one stretch about 2 years ago. We're in the third year of owning our house. And there's one week where I must have probably had tuna as a wrap or a sandwich like 3 times that week. I felt like a cat, really. But I don't really get these
You felt
cravings.
like a cat.
I had so much tuna, I'm sick of this. But I love grilled cheese, especially when it's not burnt but golden brown, and it just tastes so damn good, man.
You know what?
You can't
I
beat a
try
good
to
grilled
make.
cheese.
You gotta take your time when you make a grilled cheese sandwich. Tuna melts are cool. I dig
Yeah.
a tuna melt. I like tuna, but making that perfect grilled cheese sandwich, just take your time. Gotta heat the pan up good, but then
You
you
do.
take your time. Then you kick the notch down about medium, and then you cover it just a little bit, man.
Yeah, you sound like
Get
you know what
everything
you're doing.
melted.
It's going to be the perfect compliment to your acoustic album. Take a break and have an amazing grilled cheese.
Dude, I might write a song about grilled cheese. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
You think I should?
Yeah, you should. It should be really cheesy.
Oh, it'll be cheesy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at the cheese. The nice thing is, we've added some alcohol to this.
Some of us drink faster than others, because some like to talk a lot. That's not a bad thing,
I
though.
enjoy it. Everything's a process, even this. Hey, look who's up there.
Yeah, who is that dude?
That's our buddy Ragnar. All right, what do we got, Davey?
Okay, so next question I have. What do you think of Steven Wilson's latest record, To the Bone? It's a lot more poppy than he's done, but I'll admit, I hate pop music. And I've said it to a lot of my friends, including you. I actually like the poppy stuff he writes. What do you think of it? Have you heard a lot of it?
I love the poppy stuff. I dig that he just does what he feels, man. He doesn't care that anyone's saying, Steven, write the Raven again for me, right? He
I'll
doesn't
drink
care
to that.
about that shit.
Literally.
I mean, he probably will go around one of these days and probably rewrite that album in a sense, you know what I mean? Things tend to go full circle. But as of right now, writing what he feels. He wants to write something a little poppier at times, and the whole album isn't poppy anyway. You know?
I love that song, Asylum. That's probably my favorite one. But as soon as I
Asylum's
heard
great.
that, it's weird because he's a monotone vocalist. So you hear this monotone guy singing, and out of nowhere he's trying to be a falsetto. It's like, I haven't heard that in as long as I've known your music. Why are you trying to be a falsetto now? But you get used to it after the first verse.
You do.
That's my
and
cool favorite song from that album.
He does a pretty good
He
falsetto,
does.
man.
But for a monotone vocalist, for the most part, it's like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. It's like a bag of tricks you didn't know he could actually do, and I love the guy's music.
I use a lot of falsetto, obviously.
I know you do. You
know
got
what
a
I mean?
great breathy
It's-
voice, man.
It's kind of what I do. It's kind of my go-to thing. I'm trying to do other things, and as singers, we always want to expand our repertoire.
Yeah.
You know, but I wasn't a singer to begin with, man. I just became
Yeah.
a singer by necessity. I never told you that story, did I?
No, go ahead, man. We got the time, right?
Do we still got the time?
Yeah, we do.
Mike's giving us the nod. We still got the time. So the story is this: we had a gig booked at a really nice club, opening for a cool band, and our singer got sick.
Oh boy.
Well, he was basically a pussy. Okay. I said, man, do whatever you can do to be there. Tickets are sold. promotions on the radio. We got this thing rocking and rolling, man. It's gonna be a great show. And he never showed up. He basically said, "I'm not coming."
He pulled an
So-
Axl Rose.
He just said, "No, man, I can't do it. I'm not feeling good." I said, "Listen, DPA and I know both. We wrote the lyrics. We know the lyrics, man. We'll sing them for you, even if we can't sing them in the same key that you sing them in. We'll sing a harmony of them or something. We'll make it sound good. And then we'll just tell everyone, man, you're a fucking trooper, and you were here for the show because the show must go on."
True.
And he never showed up. So basically, I just kind of said, "Fuck this, man." You know. So me and DPA end up going over to my buddies. He had a head shop, man, and he says, "Dave, I got another gig for you. I got a gig opening for Canadian national band Junk House." And I was like, "That sounds cool." I said, "But we don't have a singer." And he looked at me. This is a true story, and this is an inspirational story. He looked at me and said, "I didn't ask you if you had a singer. I asked you if you wanted the gig." And I said, "Okay, I'll take it." I went back into the car. DP was in the car, and I said, "Well, we got a singer, and it's going to be me." And we went down and got to work. 6 weeks later, I played my first gig.
You basically pulled a James Hetfield.
I had to do what I had to do. I had enough, man. I had enough relying on other people. So I said, maybe I'm not as good as him. I wasn't as good as him. Period.
Yeah.
I was
Sometimes
not.
you got to do what you got to do.
But we had a band, and we got to keep playing.
Yep.
And that was the point. You don't want to not play, man. You're a
Yeah.
band. You want to play. So that's kind of what we did. And that's I always use that story, and I know that I still see this guy who was promoting that show, and I always tell him, I said, "Man, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be a singer today." And I thank him every time I see him.
That's cool. So, next question I got for you, Sir Davey. I see you got a lot of beautiful fiddles over there, and I also love my PRSs. I've got to ask the stereotypical guitar question as well. What's your favorite guitar that you have? Because I see a lot of my favorite PRSs over there. What's your favorite? You got a lot.
That's
You got to answer that.
impossible to answer.
Oh,
Come
you have
on.
to answer it, man.
Come on.
Take a sip of your drink first.
We'll just go by color.
Ah,
White one's actually my favorite to play. I just love the way it plays. Sunburst is definitely more versatile. The Black Beauty is
Yeah.
definitely more metal guitarish. It's got more of a metal-y vibe to it,
yeah.
as PRSs go. So they obviously all serve different purposes, and the one in the back is the baritone, which sounds just fantastic.
Awesome.
Semi-hollow, it's great. But it really, you know, Dave, it's hard because they all serve a little bit of a different purpose,
They
and
do.
you know, you play them all or record with them all based on the understanding
all
that
have
they
a
all
di-
have a little bit of
They
a
all have a
unique
different
character.
meaning.
Yeah.
They all do different things, man. The baritone, the point of those puppies is because you're going to play in drop tunings or try something different because it will hurt the neck of a standard guitar that's not meant for drop tunings generally. So that's why we have those guitars.
Yeah.
They all have a different meaning. The way they're wired, the woods on them, it all sounds different. And I know that because I have a lot of guitars too. Trust me.
Yeah, it's they're all fabulous guitars, and you know what? And the cheap ones are just as good as the expensive ones. That's the really interesting thing about the PRSs. I just love them all. I also on this album I played with a couple Hamers also. Hamers, handmade in Chicago, Illinois, back in the day, man.
Those are old, man. Those are new guitars. They're as old as I am, man.
87 and 88, I think.
87, yeah, buddy.
They were both, I got a Chaparral and a Californian. I used both of those on the album.
Wow,
So
quite a throwback.
you saw PRSs on there, you saw Hamers on there, and then we got the Babbitt sitting up there.
Your baby.
Oh, I love that acoustic, baby. It's so sweet, just sitting up there. It's all tilted out. It's like, oh, play me, play me. But yeah, that's a great guitar, and looking forward to playing a lot of that on this EP that's coming up. So
Oh yeah. You got another guitar over there, man. What is that? It's kind of hiding in the corner. That
Oh.
you haven't expressed any emotion on that baby over there.
you know, I bought that Schecter just as a tryout kind of thing because it's an 8-string.
Yeah.
And haven't written anything with it yet. Toyed around with it a little bit, but because I'm not quite that kind of player, in general, I'm not that kind of player. I want to try to use that on the new Turning Virtue album and approach it maybe in a little different manner than how everyone else uses it. So I want to be a little bit different. I want to approach it the Davey K way
Yeah.
and see if I can incorporate that Schecter and that 8-string
Oh.
into the album a little differently.
Well, you said you want to try new things, man. Learn some guttural vocals and learn how to have your drummer play blast beats. Maybe.
That probably won't happen. But on the other hand,
cool.
I'm open to everything.
Yeah, buddy.
Open to everything, attached to nothing. So if you think that's a good idea, I'll think about it.
Fucking metal.
Well, you know what? Heavy's good.
It is.
I plan on writing plenty of heavy songs for this album. Chances
Extended range.
are it'll be a little bit
Baritone.
heavier than the last album.
I like heavy, man. I'm not complaining.
I mean, it just depends. If the song calls for it and it goes there, I mean, I have outlined already about 10 to 12 songs for the Turning Virtue album.
That's cool.
But not really looking at, I'm going to first finish this EP, this acoustic EP, and then we'll get straight to work on the Turning Virtue album, probably sometime in the summer.
That's great news, man. So, next question I got for you. We're going to rack your brain a bit because you got a few years on you, supposedly. So, what's your favorite concert of all time that you have been to as a concert goer? And you've been to plenty of them, probably. So, let's hear it. What's your favorite one? If it's William Hung, I won't judge.
Holy cow. Damn, that's hard.
Yeah, I know it
Oh,
is.
that's so hard because
know.
they're all a little different.
I know.
You're kicking my ass on this one. I'm not even
No, I'm
trying
not.
to answer this.
You're gonna have to, man. There's no.
What if I pull out something that isn't metal though?
Who cares, man? If it's a hip hop artist, I won't judge.
No, you know one show that I really, really enjoyed, and I know you're probably gonna think it's a bit goofy, but I saw U2 on the Unforgettable Fire tour,
Oh.
and I was like right up at the stage. It was in Norfolk, Virginia. I was in the
Okay.
Navy at the time, and it was
Navy.
absolutely, and just being that close to Bono and Edge at the time,
Yeah.
it was just really, really wicked. One of my best experiences. I've had other good ones too.
Yeah.
Obviously, remember I told you about the Hammersmith Odeon being, in London with Gary Moore. I mean, it doesn't
That's
get much
cool.
better than that.
No, it doesn't. Vanilla Ice.
Seen Queensryche many times. My favorite. Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, buddy.
Never saw Vanilla Ice. Wasn't that lucky.
Wasn't that lucky?
I've seen him on TV a few times. I think
I
he
would
has a
say-
show on TV now.
I'd say you're lucky enough not to see him.
Okay,
Because you know what he means by ice, ice, baby. He's not talking about the ice that's on all our cars right now.
No.
No.
Okay.
All right.
All right, then I'm gonna leave it at that. But those are some of the shows that I've enjoyed. But I also like a lot of the club shows that you see.
I
A lot
love
of the
them.
really
It's intimate.
small.
That's why I love the small shows. That's why I hate arenas.
You know what was
Because you
actually?
get that intimacy. I
But
love
you know what
them.
was one of my favorite shows recently?
Yeah.
Was we didn't play the Leprous show. When I had Leprous here
Yeah.
not this past October, the October previous.
I remember that. I loved it.
Just the fact that even though I was promoting the show, I just said to everyone, okay, leave me alone, man. I'm going to go and I'm going to bang my head and I'm going to get into this show. And I just wanted to just go enjoy the show. And because those guys were also so damn nice, man. Like, Einer made me feel like I was part of the band. And so did the other guys, all the other guys in the band. They were absolutely fabulous. I just really enjoyed that show so much that there was almost like this weird personal connection to it.
Yeah, man. That was probably one of my coolest shows. I got to give you a lot of props for because we were talking about it. I'm like, I heard the music. I wasn't crazy about it. I'm going.
I remember you saying that.
Because I liked Earthside when I told you about it before. I was checking out Haken and I went to that show. And this Earthside band popped up. I'm like, cool, I'll listen to their album. It's great. They're an instrumental band. They had a few vocalists they brought on for a few songs. Then I was weirded out because they had TVs on stage, but they used that to enhance their music because they consider themselves a cinematic band, which made the experience really cool. And the other band I really wanted to see was called Binary Code, but the day of that show they broke down and couldn't make it. But they're working on a second record. I actually bought their album, their debut album, Moon's Blood, I believe it was called.
Yep.
They're a cool, techie, progressive band, but they're working on a second record. I want to shout out to my homies in the Binary Code because I really wanted to see them, but I bought your record.
Yeah,
It's really cool, man. I love that band, and I'm excited for their second album that they're working on. They're going to release soon. They're actually playing a show with this other prog band called Oceans of Slumber, and yesterday or tonight they're actually playing a CD release show for Oceans of Slumber, who's releasing an album, but they're playing new music at that show. So I'm excited for the Binary Code guys.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that they couldn't make it. I remember when they called and said that they were broken down on the road on their way to Buffalo for that show. The only thing is, as a promoter, the only reason I actually wasn't as upset, even though I really wanted to see them, was because by the time Leprous got here and they locked their keys in their truck, the guy who was driving the truck locked his keys in the truck. So Einer calls and says, we're running late again, but they still wanted to go to Niagara Falls. So we still took them to Niagara Falls. We were about 2 hours behind load-in time. So it really helped by not having binary code there that night.
Yeah.
I still would have rather had him, and we would have squeezed it the
I would've
whole night
loved it,
together.
man.
But we were really behind that night on production.
Yeah, and I was slightly surprised by the other band I didn't know about, but I liked them a lot. They were called Disona. They were really
Disona,
really cool.
they were
and
cool.
I bought their albums, man. They're a really interesting band because they don't sound like anyone else. And it was weird because they were a three-piece band. They didn't have a bass player that night, and I was confused what was going on. But I loved their music. It was technical. It was also really emotional. There were a lot of great things I loved about that band. The drummer was really intense. I really liked their guitar players. Being a strings player, I was kind of ignorant to just hanging out looking at what the guitar players doing. But they have a really cool vocalist, and their drummer is a hell of a player. So I really liked Disona, man. They were a pretty
Absolutely.
unique band. I loved them.
Very, very, very nice guys too. They were really cool, man. I remember talking to them and wish them, the best, because every band that comes through town and you book them, you promote them and stuff, you want them all to do well. They're all working their asses off, skipping work or quitting work. I think the one guy actually quit work. Didn't he quit his job to be able to go on that tour?
No kidding. I didn't
I'm almost
actually know
positive.
that.
I'm almost
That's
positive.
Crazy,
You might want to find the backstory
That's
on that,
crazy.
Dave, because I know you're digging, what you're doing, and Dave just knows so many bands, and this is why you definitely want to, check out his website, and because you won't have the time to be able to delve that deep into all these bands, so you want to go somewhere where you can count on a good purview of all these bands that you would like to listen to, but you don't have the time to. And Dave does that for you, man. And he writes real content on them. It tells you what you like, what you don't, and where they're coming from.
I appreciate the kind words, man, because my mission for this is we already talked about what music we're into. That technical, experimental stuff that has no consistency. I want to bring that stuff to a forefront, but not to a commercial forefront, because I think, as we know, that kind of stuff that's really artsy and unique doesn't deserve to be a commercialized forefront, because a lot of that music is dumbed down. And I want to help out those bands because they're so talented, they can play circles around the players that are popular.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these guys are even classically trained. This music is so odd and so unique that my mission for this, and I started this out of nowhere on a day off from work. I bought the website domain and everything, and I just had this vision. I was down and out about my best band, mature-wise, the Binomial Complex, which I already mentioned. It was the most mature music, the most experimental, and I had this dream that I just wanted to start this up. And I'm promoting all these different kinds of artists that might not be as popular, and it's very obscure music. And it's something I was really interested in David's band because, yeah, it sounds poppy, yeah, it's really progressive, but it's really good music. And and you're not like you see these guys playing late night shows, playing in stadiums, and they're a really cool band. And that's why I love these underground shows and bands because there's a lot of great artists that don't always see the light of day. And bands like David's band, Turning Virtue, really turned me onto that aspect, and I'm glad I can help these guys out to some certain aspect of whatever we can do, because that's what we got to do. It's a brother and sisterhood. We all struggle in the artistic world. We have to help each other out, and if we really like each other's music, it makes it even that much easier. So I'm really glad this band can be our first band or artist feature of the month for the Technical Music Review.
Dude, we're proud to be that too. It's so awesome. It was such an exciting thing when you told me we were going to be the first band to feature. And we'll always be there for you, Dave, support-wise, and I know you'll be at all our shows, and, that's exactly what you said, it's a brother and sisterhood, and that's the cool thing about it, man, but that's what makes it fun, right,
Yeah, that's true.
Supporting each other,
Yeah. So, one of my last questions that I have for you right now is we talked about, going to a show, but you're an artist, right? So, what's your favorite Turning Virtue show you have ever played? And we're talking from now until your first inception of the band. So you got a little bit of a chunk of shows to go for us, especially if we're talking about Turning Virtue. So enlighten us on your favorite show you've played, whether it was recently or even the mid-90s. Go ahead.
What I really liked, I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna say in the 90s, just because we did a show at the Tralf in Buffalo.
Cool.
It was our Anomaly Room album release. And we were trying to do a lot of the same kinds of ideas now with screens and theatrics. And we pulled it off, man. And it was so hard to pull it off back then because technology wasn't what it is today.
True.
And I thought, wow, how the hell did we do that, man? I mean, we had different theatrical things happening on stage while we were playing. We had The screens synced as well as we could. We had cameras on the guitars, on the neck of the guitars before it was even really cool to do that, where you're watching the solo happening from right here, you know what I mean? And it was really great because Kevin, our guitar player, man, I always convinced him to use all this stuff, and he was a player's player, man, you know what I mean? And he got pissed about halfway through that night with having that camera on his guitar, and he just fucking whacked it off, man, you know what I mean?
That's great.
Whacked it off. Bam! Oh, it's gone, you know? So, but it was a fantastic show. It was close to a sold-out show that night, which was probably about 450 people, I think, were there. And
That's awesome.
And then, you know, to cap it all off, we got a fantastic, amazing review in the Buffalo News.
That's great.
On that, I think it was that Saturday. So it made us feel good. And, you know, it goes to show again, you know, you think you're on your way when you do that, and it's just the first step, right? And what happens is so easily bands break up, and you know what? Our band did. Again, we lost members at that point. And now, as I've gotten older, I try at all costs to keep the band members that you love so much. You don't want to let them go for anything, you know. You want them to be part of something bigger than themselves. The way I look at this, I might start the songs and write a lot of the stuff, but it's bigger than just AVK. It's a band, and it's important music. It's important because if it touches someone, it's important, man. If it touches one person and one person comes up to you and says, man, that song, these things, it really makes me feel like this because of, you know, what I've been going through, you know, and that's important shit, man.
All right. One of the last questions I got for you, man. We talked about your promotion company. What is your favorite show you've put on so far in the short existence of Gazing Rabbit Productions? You put on a handful of so far, maybe 7 to 8 shows already, and you're planning on more. What's your favorite of them all that you've done so far? They were all good.
You know, I think what ends up happening, and I'm not going to even be able to pull a favorite. I know you want me to, but it's really a tough thing to do. But what I've really come down and understand, and I think anyone out there who strives to have a great life, meaning just a peaceful existence, will find that what really touches you the most when you're doing these shows is the people that surround the show. The bands, the kindness, the love, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
All those things that make you want to do another show. When you get a band that doesn't, you hope you have another show soon that cleanses you of that. It's almost like this absolution that you need. So let me give you this.
Okay.
I'm going to say that Pain of Salvation was my best one and my favorite show because this. It was a great show. I got to meet Ragnar, got to meet Daniel, these amazing, amazing artists, right?
They are.
I'm going on tour with Ragnar. Me and Ragnar became friends. Very lucky that he's in my life and that we're going to do some things together. But a week prior to that show, going back, taking a step back, what show did I do 1 week prior to that show? I did Jeff Tate.
Yeah.
So I went from this down feeling, and then when I met these guys in Pain of Salvation, every last one of them was incredibly kind.
Absolution, man.
They were amazing people. We went to dinner at Casa Azul, my buddy Victor Para Gonzalez's restaurant, and we had a great time together. You know, we
great.
enjoyed the whole show. They ended up leaving that night, and I was exhausted. And where did they go? They went to Niagara Falls. And who escorted them to Niagara Falls? Our drummer Rob.
That's great.
Rob was so tired. I think him and his wife ended up escorting them down there, and it was fabulous. The whole thing was fabulous because it's the feeling that you get. It's the love that was in the air that night. And when I say love is transcendent, right? It's bigger than just you or me. It engulfs us all when we allow it to. So the shows that you meet these amazing musicians, amazing humans, is what your best shows are.
Yeah, definitely, because that's one thing I learned about trying to start my own bands, as I mentioned a couple times already when we talked about it, on the concept of having a band that's as a unit, because you don't really hang out with them when you write music. You take on their friends and their partners and their family, literally.
You do.
And those people in your band become pretty much your family and everyone helping you out. Like, you know, Mike over here behind
Mike,
the camera.
thank you, Mike.
It's a big help. And you know, when you meet cool people along the way, but all of them you take in, they become pretty much like your own blood family. So you touch on the big point of what Rob did for Pain of Salvation. That's some cool stuff.
It is some cool
But you
stuff.
become family when you get to know them better too. So, we're all humans in the end. It doesn't matter. We're older, we're younger, we're black, we're white. We're older, we're younger. None of that really matters. It's just a number or what you look like. Who cares? In the end, we're all humans, man, and that's what we got to do as artists. We have to survive. And you make those connections, and you hopefully try to put all your egos down and get a good time. And you get to know each other like what you've done so far with Gazing Rabbit at every single one of your shows.
Thanks.
We're all humans in the end.
Thanks, Dave. And you know what? Yeah, it transcends all things. It transcends politics. Like you and I were discussing real quickly, some political stuff, and I said, you know what? The bottom line is whether our political affiliations are a bit different, 95, 99% of the things that we believe in and that we actually really live in our lives, we're all the same.
We are.
Right?
We're
We
the
all
same
wanna-
blood.
And when it really comes
We're
down
humans.
to it, we all just want to love and be loved. And that's kind of the way I approach doing anything with Gazing Rabbit or anything with Turning Virtue. I try to give that. And then, you know what? The more you give, the more you get.
True.
And it really works. And it's kind of a cool thing, man. Like attracts like. If you put off a good vibe, you tend to get people around you that are putting off that vibe and are good people.
True. Alrighty. So what we're gonna do to end this, I came up with this really cool idea actually. He's given some pretty long drawn out answers which have had a lot of meaning behind them.
Oh, what a surprise. I've given some long answers.
But it's meant a lot and you can tell we've already spent a lot of time doing this, almost a couple hours. Almost like I kind of predicted, which makes it really funny. But we're going to change the pace
smart,
on this
David.
right now. No, not really.
Pacing's everything.
Yeah. That's why you still have half a glass of your drink left.
Hey, where'd yours go?
It's done, that's why! I
Well.
finished it. So what we're going to do now, in these questions, are pretty much music related, but we're going to do a really fast round of questions. And he's got to choose one of the two. None of this crap he's chosen for a third answer when there's really two questions. It's one or the other, and it's going to be music based, except maybe some of them, for the most part. So we're going to go through this really quickly, give the best estimate you can, and on top of your answer, if you want to explain it quickly, you can. But we're going to go through this as fast as we
You
can.
better not ask me to explain it, man. You just found out. You just told me I was long-winded. Wait, long-winded? No.
Yeah.
I gave some long answer. I wasn't long-winded. Never
All
gonna
right.
be that. All
So,
right, Dave. Let's
all
do
right.
this thing,
We're
brother.
going to do, man, it's a blitzkrieg round. I already named this.
Blitzkrieg and a little bit of martini.
Yeah, I already finished mine. It's delicious. All right, here we go. Time to go fast enough. All right, Marshall and Mesa, who you got?
Marshall.
All right, I got one. Okay, we got PRS or Ibanez guitars.
PRS.
All right, that's why we're the same. All right, pedals or a digital setup?
Still gonna go digital setup.
Yeah, you like your fractals?
Used different digital things over the years. Don't know which way I'm gonna head right now. I mean, I do have some pedals, but overall, I'm still thinking digital is the easiest way to maneuver.
Oh shit. Going back to your old days, thrash metal or new wave of British heavy metal?
New wave of British heavy metal. baby.
Figured.
How about a little Saxon for you, baby?
Saxon's
Strong
not
arm
bad,
of the
dude.
law, man.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Old man question. They're kind of similar in some ways. Classic rock or blues?
Classic rock or blues.
They
Jesus.
transcend. It's kind of a filthy question.
I know, what the fuck is that? I'll say classic rock.
Classic rock? Good choice too. Alright, active or passive pickups? Who do you got?
Passive.
Yeah, I like actives too. They're both good. Different sounds, different songs.
You made me choose.
I know.
You are right, though.
Yeah. Alright, tremolos or string throughs? What do you like better?
Use both.
Yeah.
I like both. They both serve different. You see, you're giving me those
Yeah.
things. They serve different purposes, man.
They do. That's
I
the
mean,
point of asking these
I still got a
questions.
floating Floyd Rose on my Hamer Chaparral, which
Yeah.
I like.
No shit.
Yes.
Alright, next one we got. Technical or simple writing?
Well, you know what? Honestly, simple.
Simple? Yeah. I like both.
But you're giving me one. You won't let me choose both. You're a totally awful human being. What happened to
No, I'm
you?
not. They're open-ended questions, man.
I know.
That's what makes it great. Alright, buddy, next thing we got. Melodic or heavy music? What do you like better? What do you prefer?
You know, I'm a melody guy, man.
Yeah.
So of course melodic, man.
Alright. Alright, so what do you got now for old school? Old jazz or jazz fusion of the last 15 years? Or you like the old guys?
I would prefer jazz fusion.
No kidding, me too. I like the old guys. I took a college class for the history of jazz, and I liked a lot of guys. A couple of my favorite players are Django Reinhardt and Freddie Green. They were real great players in the 30s and 40s. But I like a lot of new guys, like the one article I wrote about who you should check out. His name is Gilad Hexelman. He's a great instrumentalist out of Israel that moved to New York City. He's a real good jazz player. He's not really a fusion, but he's a guy he's 30 or so. He's like 31. He's almost my age, and he's had a really successful career. So you got to check it out. I wrote an article. His name is Gilad Hexelman.
Yeah, Carl's our guitar player is a pretty good fusion player as himself. I mean, pretty good. He's great, man. Yeah, I mean, he released some albums with Dream Electric, his solo band Dream Electric.
I got to check it out.
Yeah, Carl's a fusion guy, man.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
You know who his favorite guitar player is?
Who?
Alan Holdsworth.
Oh, he's killer. I love Al Di Meola too.
No, not Dean Miola. Oh, you were saying you like
I
Dean
love
Miola
him too.
and
Holdsworth is great too.
Yeah, they're both fantastic.
He's big for our genre, man. He was big for
Fourth
progressive
time I've used
music.
fantastic in this interview.
Yeah, I know.
Count.
So, all right, what do you got? 80s pop or 90s pop? What do you like better, Duran Duran or you like Britney Spears? They're two different eras for pop music.
Duran.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I mean, two different eras for pop music. Billy
Yeah.
Joel or Sugar Ray was like pop
What?
rock. Two different kind of eras of pop music. So,
Jesus.
what decade do you like better for pop music?
80s.
Yeah, 80s?
Yeah.
All right, now here's my terrible question. Who do you got for a date night with a woman? Who do you not trust as much, Bill Clinton or Bill Cosby?
Don't trust as much?
Yeah, you know they're bad guys and they date raped a bunch of women. Who do you not trust as much in that situation?
Oh, God. Bill squared?
Yeah,
That means both?
yeah, you can say that.
Bill
if you want.
squared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take both.
All
Bills.
right, man.
2 bills.
Yeah, they're both fucked up human beings in that aspect. All right, man, it's been a pleasure. We're wrapping this interview up, man. It was great to hang out, even with that really hot question at the end.
Yeah, buddy.
You got to check out his band Turning Virtue. You can go to their website at turningvirtue.com. You can also check him out online at Gazing Rabbit Productions. They have a Facebook page. You can check out all the shows he's booking. And of course, he played a clip of one of his acoustic songs he's working on through his name, Davey K. He's going to release that hopefully this year. And like he hinted at, he's also going to be working on a Turning Virtue album with the rest of his band that they're going to try to start writing this summer. So it's going to be a pretty big year for these guys. He's going on that tour with Ragnar Zolberg he talked about earlier. There's a lot of cool things going on, so you want to stay up to date with everything between his solo album, Turning Virtue, and also head over to my website at technicalmusicreview.com. It's been an honor, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate
Thanks, Dave.
it. I learned a lot here,
See,
man.
we're
I
buds,
appreciate
man.
it. We're buds.
Have a good one.
Take care, man. It's been
Thank
an
you,
honor.
Dave.
Thank you.